So how did the movie come about? Why Seberg?
Well, let's talk to this lady because she's our originator of the whole project. So
I fell in love with Jean Seberg in 2005. I was a big fan of Breathless. I wondered what happened to that woman. And then I started doing some investigation and some research and found out that she had had this incredibly tragic and interesting and sad demise. And I thought, I need to make a movie about this. So I hired these guys, the writers, and we developed the story, and then it kind of all came together a few years later.
What do you want people to know about Jean Seberg?
That she was really ahead of her time. I think she was a thoroughly modern woman in her professional and personal life, and she stood up for things that seemed kind of, outlandish back in the day, but now I think she was a woman that was, a couple of decades too early, and I think we should learn about her convictions.
What should people know who don't know who she is?
I would say certainly go back and have a look at her. I mean, if you watch Breathless and you understand that it was made in 1960, it's possibly one of the most incredible pieces of modern filmmaking. So I would certainly go back and appreciate her as an actress, and then learn a bit more about what she cared about, because I think a lot of people can connect with those ideas today.
So why is Kristen Stewart the perfect person to play Jean Seberg?
Kristen, like Jean, is a raw, instinctive actress. She has a kind of impulsive quality. And I think she lives, like Jean, she straddles kind of European and American cinema. She grew up, like Jean was thrust into the spotlight very early when she won the role of St. Joan for Otto Preming's movie, and Kristen also came into the spotlight very early, and she kind of suffered under media attention, and Kristen has experienced that and can kind of,
What was it like seeing Kristen, for the first time as Jean Seberg?
Well, we started with a haircut, and it was astonishing how perfectly she looked like Jean. But what excited me was that she was finding Jean from the raw nerves of Jean, and that commitment that she had. And once I started to see that, was just astonishing. We began shooting the scenes where she copies the scene from Breathless. So to see her do that, one of the most iconic moments in cinema history. Right from on the first day of the shoot was amazing.
What did you know about Seberg before this movie came along?
Breathless. I saw that movie in high school and thought it was an amazing, groundbreaking, pivotal, just raw performance. So that was what I knew of her, and I didn't even realize it was her when I got the movie. I went back and they were like, "Oh, she was the actress that was in Breathless." So, growing up a kid watching all the weird, out there avant-garde movies, I, grew up a fan without knowing it.
One of your producers said that the chemistry between you and Kristen was automatic.
Yeah, I mean, just instantly. I feel like we have a mutual respect and knowledge of each other's work and appreciation of the things that we're trying to do in the business. The idea of being a celebrity is not something we started this business for. We actually love what we do. And we love our personal time and space. So I think knowing that, we're two peas in a pod.
Why is she the perfect Seberg?
I think just because she's the things that she's been able to do with her career, as far as the rawness, the maturity, the focus on craft as an actress, kind of fits into this role really well. And it helps that she looks a lot like her.
Look at her tonight. It's like...
She wins. She wins. She wins.
What did you know about Seberg before the project came to you?
Breathless. Yeah, really limited to that. I knew her as an icon, like in a very image-based awareness of her. I loved her sort of willingness to be present in a time where acting was much more performative, and she was just like the most, undeniably honest and explorative presence. She never felt like she was standing and delivering a performance. So it made sense that this person had a really complicated life underneath that image. the irony of us not knowing that story really struck me. Like they really succeeded in submerging that story, which is upsetting and obviously like very vindicating to bring to light now.
And everyone's saying the chemistry between you and Anthony Mackie, they saw it right away. Did you feel it right away?
Yeah, it's really hard not to with him, honestly. He's like such a good storyteller, and like he's just such a good guy and really funny. And yeah, I was really lucky to have him play Hakeem.
Tell me about the Jean Seberg look. I heard you had to dye your hair a couple of times, different colors, and the first scene you shot was the breathless scene.
Yeah, the first moving pictures that we took were of Breathless and her screen test, and they're the only Googleable images in the movie. So we needed to get them very, very right and accurate. And then everything else after that was a sort of distilled version of her energy, which was more important than doing a perfect impression.
When did you know you got it right? When did you feel you were Seberg?
I didn't. I just was always striving to get closer. I don't think I could have ever done that. I didn't know her.
So from Twilight to superheroes, Rob is Batman. What do you think?
Oh man, I feel like he's the only guy that could play that part. I am so happy for him. It's crazy.
He has the perfect cheekbones.
No, I mean yeah, for sure. It just feels like, I don't know. I'm very, very happy about that. I heard that and was like, oh man. yeah, it's awesome.
And he had been trying for a while to write a film about Jean Seberg. And Joe comes from a family of thespians, and his grandmother, Deborah Carr, had worked with Jean.
Your grandmother, what? You can't just drop that. Wow, your grandmother is Deborah Carr?
My grandmother is Deborah Carr, was Deborah Carr. She died in 2007. But I, too, had fallen in love with Jean from that iconic image of Breathless, and I grew up on French New Wave movies, and I loved her from that. And I found out fairly late that she'd made a small, relatively obscure film called Bonjour Tristesse, which was Otto Preminger's second film with Jean, and it transpires it was a kind of apology for the way he mistreated her during Joan of Arc. And so I got to ask Deborah about Jean as a person, and I learned a lot about her as a character and what she was like as a person, and from Deborah's husband, Pete Vittel, who was a screenwriter. And so I'd become obsessed with her. But I'd never cracked the story. And when Anna and I got together romantically, we're now married, we have 2 children.
Many films later.
Many films later. But Anna had found this way into the story that I just thought was so exciting and unique, so we then collaborated on the screenplay
together, and it was and it's very hard to find a writing partner. It's not something I ever looked for. And I found Joe, and I remember vividly, I lived in New York at the time, and I sent him what I had done on the script. And it was the days of fax machines. And one morning I got this like churning fax coming through, and he'd rewritten one of my scenes, and I was so pissed. I looked at it and went, I can't believe it, but it was brilliant. So I went, oh God, I'm going to have to let him be part of this. And that was the beginning of our collaboration, which was a genuine coincidence. But it started what has now become our life.